Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another Etheria restart video, and today we're going to revisit the topic of shells because I keep running into people, whether it's like out in the real world or in Discord or in the comments section of my videos, that their account is stuck. And inevitably, like if I look at their account, especially when people like hand me their phone at the college class I'm teaching, or my sister hands me her phone and they're like, hey, like look at my account, their shells are usually kind of bad. So let's talk about which shells you should level up to progress your account. There's some definite winners here. There's some definite ones you should just skip all the way. And I made a handy little infographic, I think, that will highlight especially the early game. So here what I've done, if you want to just quick reference, you can check this out whenever you want. I made a list. Like these are shells that I think you should get at least one of at the time in the game when it's the hardest thing you can farm to kind of keep pushing your account. Notice Febian, I have a lot of shells on those, and those are the only yellow tier shells I actually recommend. Those are all great, and you're going to use those shells like the bee, the shark, and the cat. Those, we'll look at those more in detail here in a minute. You're going to use those even as you run in across that red line to where you start farming mythic shells. So if you ever want to just like reference that little list right there, come back to the beginning of this video, look at that. I think you should max at least one of all of those that I talked about. Now, a little bit more of a breakdown. I'm going to spend a lot more time on the later bosses, but look, for Jacques, Agent Lizard for your first DPS, like probably Leon, somebody like that, it's just great. Follow-up damage, it's going to help you clear the game. And then Scorpion Queen, look, this thing's really cheap to just like boost up a little bit. And even if you don't boost it up a little bit, it has a nice little heal on it. One thing you're going to learn about shells as you push through the game, these supporter type shells, not necessarily healers, it's more shielders later, right? They just help, man. This having that spot extra little heal, having that spot shield, those are so clutch. And Scorpion Queen right here is kind of the first one in that line. So I would get at least one of those Agent Lizards and one of those Scorpion Queens, and feel free to level those up because you'll use them for at least just a little while. Then you move to Shadowrunner, and you're going to unlock Shadowrunner pretty soon. This has an excellent support shell in it, Unbridled Science. Personally, if I was restarting the game, I would have at least one of these leveled all the way up, and you will use it for a little while. I did 2 on my last run, and that was fine. Like 2 actually seemed like a pretty good number. So get yourself some Unbridled Sciences, put it on your support characters. Basically, you can start running this as a replacement to your healing shell, and on anybody who you don't want to just like have more direct damage follow-up. Like, look, if you're running Swift Rush or Bulwark are unbreakable on a character, man, Unbridled Science is just where it's at. Like this shell, the speed increase, that 30% boost to your turn meter, just a big deal. So that's the one that I like from Shadowrunner. Then when you unlock a Pate and you start farming this, and you really should be farming the hardest level shell boss that you can be farming, as much as whenever you're farming shells, farm the hardest fight you can, because you're just going to need 1 billion training data. Like you always need to be collecting training data. So when you unlock a Pate and you start farming this, for the most part, this is where you're going to be looking to replace your Agent Lizard with a Budo Panda. So whoever you have running Agent Lizard, have them now run Budo Panda instead. It's a direct upgrade and will serve you pretty well for a long time. I want to give a special shout out though to not White Gale, but to Tamamo Doji. I think I said that right. Look, a lot of people are going to be using Gray, and if you're using Gray, he's kind of an awkward character to use. Like you can use those support style shells on him, the ones that like boost turn meter or something like that, but the way he works, where he does his skill 2, give himself that crit rate buff, and then does his skill 3, the 1-turn shells on him are kind of weird if you want to like maximize his AoE damage. This is kind of the beginning of Gray's shell line. I kind of just call it that because I use those on him, where you get a 2-turn attack buff. So even though this will proc on his turn 1 and give him that 600 attack buff that he wastes buffing himself, it's still around for when he uses his skill 3 on turn 2. This will up his damage, and if you're using Gray as a damage dealer, there's more of these down the line, like rarer ones of these, but Tamamo Dojo is kind of the first one that I would build. So if you're a Gray user, stop and get yourself a Tamamo Dojo if you want to power up your Gray. Then we get to Kuru. Now look, probably skip most of Kuru, because after him you unlock the next rarity, with the exception of if you want to use a star. Like I use these in the beta, I didn't really use them on this last account. it's a cooldown reduction. So if you have a character with a skill that like, that's it, like the only thing you care about that character doing is that one skill and you just need a little bit of power, level up a star a little bit, get that cooldown reduced by a turn. It might help you out. If you don't need it though, skip this one. That's why I made it really small on my infograph. I think it's probably the only one on here worth mentioning, but I didn't, like, I farmed Kuru a little bit because I wanted, you know, the training data. And from these, I know it doesn't show this, but like module leveling material also drops in these dungeons. So that's a big deal. Mermaid Princess is kind of the first like PvP cleansing one. It doesn't give a buff afterwards, but if you need a cleanse, like if you want to get into PvP early, I wouldn't suggest it. The only thing I'd even look at here is Star, but Kururu's mostly just a skip. Then we get to the next tier up. We get to Febian. When you can start farming, like Febian Hard does drop 2 really great shells, but when you can start running Febian Nightmare, you're going to spend a lot of time here. You're going to farm this a lot because all 3 of these yellow tier shells are actually great. Twilight Night, you're going to use this for a long time. I would get one of these max. Like if I was redoing my run, I would max 1 Twilight Night because of that. It has a turn cooldown, right? When you start the fight, you don't get to use this on your opening turn, but on your next turn, it will do a big time defense debuff on the target and some damage. And it sets like, it just sets people up to die. It's just awesome. I love Twilight Night. The better shell here is probably Black Flag because this one you could use on like almost any character. It's a little awkward on a DPS character because the matrices doesn't have like onslaught on it or something like that, but it does a follow-up attack, 120% damage, but more importantly, a 2-turn speed buff and a turn meter boost. This is, there's a line of shells like this, and they are super valuable on your support type characters. Boost their turn meter and a speed buff, especially if you don't have somebody on your team who's regularly speed buffing you, which is a really important buff to have. This is a way of getting that for yourself. And then we've got Diamond Heart. This is a shielding one, and this is such an important thing. Like having a shield that goes off on your team, it's massive. It's massive. Now, Diamond Heart is not nearly as good as the one later, but I did build one of these up. It was super helpful for me on fights like Doki Doki. I actually went back and started using it again at like account level 60 because I only had a couple of the like better ones leveled up, and I was like, no, I just need more shields. What do I have access to? I had this and I threw it on a supporter and I got some more clutch shielding in there. So Diamond Heart, very worth getting. You're gonna want, like, to make progress in the game, you got to keep powering up. And even though you might think, hold on, there's going to be higher tier shells later, you need the current tier that you're on leveled so you can go get the next tier. It's kind of it sucks sometimes, but it is what it is. I would get 4 to 5 of these leveled up, probably like 1 of these, at least 2 of these, and at least 1 of these, and then more if you need it, because you're going to be on those for a while. Whitney is the next fight, and there's really nothing in Whitney that I love. These are very like, do you really want this? Like Crossroads is a gray. Like this is one for gray that's really good. So if you want to upgrade your gray shell and get that attack buff for 2 turns, this one comes with life leech as well. So it gives him a little self-sustain. That's maybe the caveat here. If you're a gray user, you'll maybe farm him up a Crossroads. You'll replace that a little bit later, but for now it'll be pretty good. The rest of these are just kind of like Blizzard. It's okay, but it's only a 50% chance. I don't love the RNG of the 50% here to reduce the cooldown of a random skill on cooldown by 1 turn, 50% chance. Some people have talked about how they like this. I never built one. I didn't love it too much. I pretty much skipped building most of the shells from Whitney, and I didn't regret it at all because this is when it gets to the big leagues. Niko Nana, and you've probably heard this like ad nauseum at this point, like Niko Nana dropped some of the best shells in the game. Now, White Fang, look, it's that follow-up attack that's on the no turn cooldown. You put this on your main DPS. It's single target, huge follow-up attack, 2 hits of 100% damage. When it crits, it increases the owner animus's crit damage by 5% up to 10 stacks. So it has like a ramping mechanic to it. It's best in slot for a lot of DPS characters. You're going to want 1 or 2 of these maxed out. Like this is a great one to start on. If you want to max out like 1 of these shells first, if you're using like a Didding or somebody like that, boom, get yourself a White Fang, max that out. Here's Artisan, one of the, I kid you not, most important shells in the game. like that's in the game right now. Artisan is that guy. In every single fight that I do, I'm usually running an artisan. In some fights, I'm running 2 artisans because this shield is amazing. It sucks sometimes to take up a spot in your team with a healer. You'd rather have somebody who like does some more damage or provides some more utility, or maybe just a little bit of healing, but mostly like buffing. Hey, look, just shield everybody for 700, increase your defense by 700, and then 350% of your defense is a shield to the caster and the lowest HP person on your team. Look, if you've not used this shell before, just trust me when I say absolute game changing. It'll save your butt in so many fights. So get yourself an artisan. Now, Gigabyte, this is the turn meter boosting shell, and I have 2 of these that I'm just constantly like putting on people. I built 2 of these. I would build 1 early and then revisit if you needed another one later. Basically, for every 3 actions by enemy units, you get a 30% turn meter boost up to 1 time per turn. Really handy in fights where you're fighting lots of mobs as just a clutch, like, oh, look, boom, I get to go again. That's awesome. And then Alicorn, this is a cleansing shell. Now, this is really good for PvP. Like if you have somebody who can survive an opening shot in PvP, but they might be frozen or they might be slept or they might be anything, this will cleanse them and give an effect resist buff for a 20% buff for every 1 debuff removed for 2 turns. Really, really useful when you need it. When not, I don't use this one in every fight, but like on a healing character, you could be doing a Doki Doki run, for example, and maybe you're using Ling Luo to kind of power you through that run. If she gets crowd controlled on the second wave, there's a lot of stuns in that second wave. If she gets crowd controlled while your team's kind of like medium HP and you're counting on her to pop that big heal, oh no, she's stunned, she skips her turn, then they AoE 2 more times and you die. If she has Alicorn, boom, cleanse that stun and you're better off. So really, really good on your healing characters. Okay, now Sharon is the last one that I had on that little list. There is only one shell that I think is a must build from Sharon, but it really is a must build, and that's Halloween. No doubt, like top tier shell in this game. I love this shell. So after you take action, 70% chance to reduce the cooldown of a random skill on cooldown by 1 turn. So your characters that are spamming crowd control effects, that's where I love this one. Mio, for example, with a turn meter knockback and a freeze, she's gonna cast her turn meter knockback first, probably then reduce that cooldown by 1. If not, choose her free second turn, and then it'll probably proc this and reduce one of those skills cooldown by 1 turn. So one of them's pretty much right back up again. It's nuts how great this shell is on those like support or control type characters. Build yourself a Halloween. Now at that point, I think you're kind of done with what I call like the early and mid game, maybe early late game progression shells. And you're moving into fights like Shadowflame Hoyan and Rengakutsu, however the heck you say it. So I'm going to go through the shells in these real quick and tell you which ones I really like. They are very good, and I think all of them are worth building at least one of, just when you need them, when they're situationally, when you can farm. So from Shadowflame Hoyan, you have Jackal Guard. Now, Jackal Guard is very worth building. It's after the owner takes action, follow-up attack on the main target, 200% damage plus 3,500, and that 2-turn speed buff and the turn meter boost. It's a direct replacement to that, like, the Black Flag line of skills, right? So, boom, here you go. Damage, follow-up attack, speed up, turn meter boost. Jackal Guard, excellent shell. If you need characters to give themselves a speed buff and boost their turn meter and a little bit more damage, Jackal Guard's your guy. Okay, Law of Silence. For me, this is like a PvP focused one. It puts the Animus in a void state. What void means is you can't be targeted. You can still take damage from AoEs, but no one can target you, and that can kind of mess up like a Didding in PvP, or if there's like a single target attacking mob that you're wanting to dodge, that'll help there. Yeah, it says it doesn't trigger till turn 4, but it actually does trigger before your turn. It's sort of just like before anybody takes a turn, you start the fight in the void state, then 4 turns later you get that again. Boom. Really kind of niche, but good. Okay, Revelation. One of the top in-game damage dealing shells that's out there. if you can take advantage of it. I say if you can take advantage of it because what this is every 3 turns, your move, every damage you do that crits. So every 3 turns, every crit damage that you do deals an additional indirect real damage equal to 10% of the target's max HP. It cannot exceed 150% of your attack. That number goes up when you max this out to 12% and 180% of your attack. Here's the deal. If you have a character that can do multi-hit critting attacks and has a lot of attack on them, this is their best damage dealing shell. Think Chiata, for example. This is Chiata's shell. I build a DPS Silence. I maxed her skill 3, so it's on a 3-turn cooldown. Boom. She does a truckload of damage like with this thing. For the characters that can use it, one of the best shells in the game. It is awkward to use on characters that don't have a 3-turn cooldown AoE ability. Then they're just kind of like single targeting something with a single hit and it does a little more damage, whatever. But for the characters that can use this, Revelation's insane and will help you progress your account when you're getting into those like Nightmare 3s, Nightmare 4s. At that point in the game, that's when a shell like this, you can start taking advantage of it with your power. Then Amber, when the owner Animus is about to die, half their current turn meter, remove all effects inflicted on them, recover half their HP, and put them into an ice state. Niche, like, it'll save your life once. I don't honestly use this shell at all, but there will be times probably in the future, maybe for like a PvP cheesy build or something like that, that I will. I'm not going to comment too much on Amber because it's the one from here that I'm not building myself yet. And I will end this video by showing you my shells. And then Ring Gokutsu, this one has a ton of good boys in it. Let's start with Count. Now, this is the final destination of that like gray shell line. I call it gray shell line. A lot of people can use this, whatever. It's the 2-turn attack buff. It's 1,000 attack for 2 turns and the life leech shell. I use this on my gray in like the hardest levels of Doki Doki and he hits like a truck. It's awesome. And that self-sustain he gets from this has been so pivotal in like Nightmare 4 of keeping him alive. So I love Count. You should build a Count. Then you have Fortissimo. So each time the main body Animus heals, store 30% of the healing amount and 60% of overhealing. Before the main body Animus acts, if there's any friendly units with HP below 60%, release all that stored healing, evenly heal all qualifying friendly units. It's a way of your healers being able to like spread their healing out a little bit. And in long drawn out fights where, maybe like, maybe you don't have your skill 3 for Lingluo up all the time. Here's a little bit more AoE healing for you. I'm not using this shell right now. I have seen people use it to some success. It's pretty good. Now, let's talk about one of the best shells in the game, bar none, Codex of Magic. Here's how this one works. At the beginning, on your first turn, whatever you do doesn't use up the cooldown. You just get to use it again on the second turn. This has a long ass cooldown on it, 8 turns, right? That's a really long time. But then you get to do it again. So I use this on my Shadow Sonya, for example, because her AI kind of sucks in the live version of this game. She goes skill 2, then skill 3. You throw this on her, she goes skill 2, skill 2 again, and then skill 3. And by buying her that time to use her skill 2 twice into her skill 3, she can often execute whatever I'm fighting with that last cast. Or if you have somebody who just likes to do big AoE attack, Messiah or somebody like that, they can do big AoE attack, and then their next turn they can do big AoE attack again. That's pretty handy. And you can abuse this with like a Lily, right? Like if you can have somebody take advantage of this and take advantage of Lily's, you don't have cooldown on your abilities. Your Messiah could just go nuts the whole time. It's really abusable. It's used by a lot of people at the end game. You're going to want Codex of Magic. And then we've got Lighthouse. So when the main body takes damage greater than 25% of their max HP within a turn, heal them for 20% max HP and increase turn meter by 20%. Hey, look, you don't want to get one shot by something, use this. Great in PvP, great in PvE where like a boss is going to like just really smack you to death. Every 2 turns this can trigger. That's really often, you guys. This shell is probably underutilized. Personally, I'm not really using one right now because I just have been building other ones, but I'm building up my supply of lighthouses. I'm gonna make myself a lighthouse and I'm gonna catch some people off guard in PvP. Now, this video is getting a little bit long. I want to end it by showing off my current shell inventory. And I'll talk about like what I've done and what I've not done. I have sold off all of my purple level shells because you need so much of the shell leveling material It's so much. But I didn't do that until I had a nice variety of the mythic tier to choose from, and I'm still taking advantage of my yellow tier a little bit when I need it. So that's my lineup right here. I have 2 gigabytes, and I do sometimes use both of those. I have 2 artisans, and then you can see I'm doing like 1 of all of the rest. I actually built my second revelation today, trying to clear out Doki Doki Inferno, but I need some levels to my account. The double EXP farm starts tomorrow at the time of me filming this, probably today at the time of you're watching. So my Chiata about to power up, about to see what she can do with this thing. Otherwise, I'll try to find somebody else who can use it. Okay, guys, that's the end. I hope this video is helpful, especially if you're like a newer player in the game and you're wondering what shells should I farm. There's my answer to all of that question from the beginning to the end. And like, really, for most new players, take a look at that, go back in the video, take a look at that graphic that I had towards the beginning, and just build yourself one of those. You can't go wrong building yourself one of those. That's my opinion. All right, thank y'all for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you next time. Peace.